Yo guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel, or welcome if you've never been here before. So today I've just jumped on to do my forecast, and this will be the forecast for the week commencing the 16th of May and ending on the 20th of May. But guys, before I do jump into the charts, I will just draw you guys to a written version of this forecast which I've just done. So if you guys want to check out the written version of this forecast, then just click the link in the description and you guys can reference the written version following that link in the description. Also, guys, sorry about last week. I didn't manage to get a forecast out. I've been away to Rhodes in Greece, so I was just on holiday for a week. But after this week and today, I should be back to normal with the weekly forecasts. Alright, so let's jump into it. So, Nzd Usd is the first pair that I'm going to cover. So, looking at Nzd Usd, what we can see on the daily, break structure, break structure, break structure, which is what I've marked. So, from a daily perspective, what we're basically seeing is that the market's in a clear bearish bias. So following that, I will just be looking for sells on NZD this week, looking to follow that bearish bias that the market's giving us. Now, looking at the daily, we're currently in a range from this high here, this strong high, to this low down here. So for me, at some point, since we do have an order block up here, what I'm going to be expecting is that price is going to retrace and come back up here so that we can mitigate this order block here before then going further down. Now, what I'm also aware is that we've got this order block from before, so the daily impulsive order block, which caused the break structure before the most recent daily break structure. So looking at that, for me, at some point, I am going to expect that price is going to basically start buying up to mitigate either the daily SR or the daily imp. So that depends on what the institutions want to do. But I will be anticipating that at some point, institutions are going to start buying it back up so that they can mitigate still all the orders in this order block here and in this order block here. So when that does kick off, we will probably see like quite a decent duration of counter trend action, so that we can get back up there to mitigate before we then do sell off. So looking at the daily and just based on that, at some point I do expect price to travel back up, and then I will be happy to sell away from the daily SR here. And then if that doesn't hold and if price does continue past it, then the reason why that has happened is because we're actually going to be going up to the daily imp. And then at that point, I will be expecting price to continue, get up to here, and then start to sell off from there to then take us into new daily lows. Alright, so that's for daily. We have got basically these two areas here, which are going to be great areas to sell from on the daily after the institutions have mitigated these areas. Now, that said though, what we've got to consider is that as of right now, what we're actually in is just this leg of structure here. So just find the bars pattern. So if we look at it like this, we're clearly just in bearish candles on the daily at the minute, a bearish structure. So it really wouldn't be surprising to just see this price action here just continue like this. And that's why I've also looked at the 4 hour. So whilst I do anticipate that price will return to these two areas, or at least up to here on the daily, before then continuing down, until we see the 4 hour structure broken to the high, we've got to expect the price is just going to continue down in the bearish move that it's currently in, following the 4 hour structure. Alright, so looking at the 4 hour from last week, what we can see is very clearly we got this breaker structure here. Now this is left behind this huge wick here, and that is basically where the order block is, which caused this breaker structure. So for me, in terms of the daily just continuing downwards, like I talked about with that pattern, what I'm going to be expecting is that as we do retrace into this area, which you can see more clearly on the lower time frames, the 2 hour and the 1 hour. So the best refinement, to be fair, is the 1 hour there. So as we do see price come into this 4 hour order block, I will just be expecting price to then continue away from that. So for me, what's going to happen this week? So the first thing I'm going to be looking at is just a continuation of this overall bearish impulsive move, and I will be expecting that move to just continue away from the 1 hour refinement of this 4 hour order block, which caused a break structure last week. Now, if this high doesn't hold, if we do see the strong high broken on the 4 hour, then at that point I will suspect that we've most likely started the bullish counter trend move, and then the purpose from the institutional perspective of that bullish counter trend move is going to be to take us up to this order block here, and then they can mitigate that order block before continuing down. Or alternatively, if they are going to continue, what we could see is that once we see that bullish transition, we could just see price continue all the way up here to the daily imp before I will then still be expecting a sell-off from institutions. So like I say though, until we see this strong high broken, until we see that 4 hour transition into bullish market structure, we have just got to expect that the 4 hour structure will continue. If we do see that bullish transition, then the reason why is because the institutions are then going to be coming up to mitigate the 2 order blocks that they've left behind here on the daily. So that's Nzd Usd really for me this week. I will be looking just firstly for shorts out of here, for sells out of here. If this doesn't hold, then I'll be looking for sells out of here. And then if that doesn't hold also, I will be looking for sells out of here. Now, obviously, this is quite far away, so we're probably not going to get there this week. We may, if we do see this fail to hold, then this week may just be a counter trend week on the daily, which will take us back up to the SR. So if we do fail to hold this 4 hour structure, then I will be open to taking counter trend buys, which can then take us back up into them daily order blocks that are higher up. So that's Nzd USD this week from me. Keep it simple though. The first thing that we want to be looking at going into the start of next week is for price to retrace up into here and then just continue to sell off from there. And then if we do see that broken, we can assess the situation and look for counter trend opportunities, which will take us up to the daily order blocks. Alright, so that is NU guys. And if there's anything that's not clear there, then just comment on the video or check out the written version of the forecast. So this week, a lot of the structures are actually pretty similar on these XXX-USD pairs. So AUD-USD, we're literally in, like, it's pretty much the same structure as NZD-USD. We've had 3 break structure, but more recently on the daily, we've had this breaker structure, which left behind the daily impulsive order block. We've had this breaker structure, leaving behind the daily SR. Again, like on NZD-USD, we are just in this bearish leg of price action currently. So looking at that, I am just anticipating that price is just going to continue downwards. So considering that, I will be anticipating that we can just continue to follow the 4 hour structure until that 4 hour structure is broken. So looking again on AU, what we can see is that last week we had this huge wick just almost identical to NU, which has left behind an order block for price to sell off from. So for me, the first thing that I'm expecting this week, and really what I'm interested in firstly, is that price is going to come back up into this 4 hour order block, and then we can just look to sell off from there, expecting price to break structure again on the 4 hour. And in terms of the refinement, again, the 1 hour is the cleanest refinement because we can see there's this imbalance here, and then we've got, you know, this refinement of the overall 4 hour order block there. So AUD, what I'm expecting this week, I will be expecting price to just continue up when market opens, and then either Monday, Tuesday, maybe Wednesday, if it's been a bit more corrective, we can hopefully be in this area, and then I will be looking for my entry model for the confirmation entry to then take sells following that 4 hour structure. Again, like on NU, and like I say, it is almost identical this week. If this 4 hour structure does not hold, then I will be anticipating that maybe we've started the counter trend move, which will take us up into either the daily SR before we then sell off away from there, or failing that, the counter trend move will take us into the daily imp before we then sell off away from there. So if this area does fail to hold, I will be open to counter trend buys to take us up into these areas. But for now, I am just mainly interested in sells, and I do think even if this doesn't hold, the sells are still high probability because that's obviously pro trend on the daily. So what I'm really forecasting on this pair, we've got a sell here out of the 4 hour order block. Then we've got sells available out of the daily order block here, and for me, I mark the refinement, which is this candle here. And then if both of them opportunities fail, then I will be expecting sells to eventually come in out of this area, which will then take us to break the daily low again. And like I say, once we do see this, if we do see, sorry, this strong high broken, or if we see new strong highs broken, if we do see that bullish transition on the 4 hour, then I will be open to counter trend plays, which will take us up here, because we know that we've got imbalance here. So most likely at some point the institutions are going to be wanting to take the price back up to mitigate at least the SR, if not mitigating up here and filling this imbalance. So that is AUD USD this week, and hopefully you guys have got a clear picture of what I'm thinking. So pound dollar. So pound dollar, it's very well. It's literally the same structure as last week on the daily. Yeah, the same as last week. But yeah, like I said, I didn't get the forecast out last week, guys. But if you do check the comment section of my previous forecast, then you can see my written forecast from last week. But what we've basically got on pound dollar, we had this break structure here, and that left behind the daily impulsive. Now, what it also did is mitigated the previous order block that caused this break structure. So for me, we have mitigation there, and that leaves behind the order flow invalidation line. Now, what we've also had since then is a new breaker structure, leaving behind a much lower order block, and that is your daily successful retrace order block. So for me, from a daily perspective, what I'm expecting is that at some point, price is going to come back up into this daily SR. I'll then look to sell away from the daily SR, following my entry model, and hopefully that move can then take us to break new structures on the daily. Now, failing that, I wouldn't be too surprised if this doesn't hold, if we do see price come back up to here, because that's where the order flow invalidation for sales is. We've also got all this imbalance. So if this doesn't hold, then we know why. It's because price is coming back up here. And then when we do get back up here, we can look for sales. So that is the daily structure on GU. We've basically got two reference points to sell from, and sells out of either the daily SR down here or the daily imp up here are both absolutely fine. That said, however, again, just like on AU and on NU, we are just currently in a bearish leg of price action. So as of right now, until the 4 hour breaks, I am just anticipating that continuation following the 4 hour. So looking at the 4 hour now, what we've got is we've got a break structure that came from this wick. Now, if we look on the 1 hour, we've got a clear refinement of that wick with imbalance. So for me, what I'm really expecting going into next week is we are just going to retrace back up into here, and then we can just continue with the bearish structure out of that area and hopefully go into new lows. So, I mean, these three pairs, they're really similar this week. Firstly, we're looking for a 4 hour continuation for sells. Failing that, then at that point we can, I guess, be open to counter trend buys to take us up into these higher areas. But the better opportunities are going to be the pro trend bearish opportunities. So if this does fail to hold, what I'll be really waiting for is sells out of the daily successful retrace order block. And if that also doesn't work, then sells out of the daily impulsive order block. Now, like I say, guys, I will be open to counter trend opportunities if we do have that 4 hour structural transition, because obviously it's going to take quite a while to travel even 200 pips up here, but to travel 600 pips up to there, there's going to be plenty of buying opportunities if that is what's going to happen. But as of right now, we are just in a very bearish structure, and I am anticipating that bearish structure to continue out of this order block here. So that's the first thing that I'm going to be looking for next week. Alright, so that's GU. So euro dollar. Alright, so euro dollar, we've literally got the same situation as GU on the daily. We've had one break structure, two break structure, so we're in a clear bearish bias market. Now we've got the daily SR, which is, you know, the most recent order block which caused this break structure. So for me, when we get up into this area, I would just look for my entry model, and I'll be absolutely happy to take sells out of this order block here to then break structure again on the daily. Now, failing that, and like on GU, we've got our order flow invalidation. So failing that, I will anticipate price will continue upwards to then go to the daily imp, and then I will definitely, if we get up there, be looking to sell away from the daily imp. So if we do break the strong level, I will look for them counter trend opportunities following the 4 hour structure. But when we do get into this daily impulsive OB, I will be expecting price to sell away from that. Now on this pair, I've not really marked out the 4 hour because it does just very much line up with the daily. Now the thing is, well, within the daily, what I would expect is we will most likely either go from this area here, which is what ties up with the current 4 hour bearish structure, or we will go from this area up here. Sorry guys, my phone just went there. So continuing on, that's my EU analysis, and here is the euro pound analysis. Alright, so euro pound, I'll go from the top because it did change quite a bit in the last couple of weeks. So what I was originally looking at on euro pound, we was in this bearish price action, and we've just been basically traveling in this downtrend. As I spoke about many times in previous weeks, I've marked out all these structures here on the 2-day. Now what that did, it eventually led to the break of structure on the weekly, and that left behind this weekly high here, which I was anticipating price would sell off from. Now, obviously, we did see that rejection and price went back to the lows of the range, but we did fail to break the lows. So we have essentially seen that support come into the market. And then what we've seen is a bullish break of structure on the weekly. So at this point now on the weekly, we have basically seen that break of structure. So for me, what I am anticipating is that we are just going to get the continuation now, and we are most likely going to be going to be switching to the bullish structure on the weekly. So for me right now, whilst it is only one break of structure, because it's for weekly, I am anticipating that we are going to see bullish price action, and that we are now in a bullish bias market, buying away from this low down here. Now, looking at the daily, what we've got is 2 breaks of structure consecutive. So for me, what that signals is a transition to bearish market structure on the daily. Now we don't have a mitigation, so for me it's not order flow, but we do have that transition to bearish market structure. So bullish market structure, sorry. So what I'll be expecting is that price is going to come down into this daily SR, and then when we do get into there, I'll be absolutely happy to look for my entry model and then follow price for buys out of that area. We can see that we've seen that institutional bullish activity coming out of that area. So when we do get back into here, the institutions can mitigate their orders, and then they'll start putting the buy orders back into the market, and that'll force the next break of structure. That said, however, whilst this is a perfectly valid buying opportunity, and I will be absolutely happy to buy out of daily SR. What we've also got is this order block down here, which caused the previous break of structure, and that is also the extreme of this whole leg, which is the weekly leg. So that does tie up more with the weekly structure, and this is essentially our weekly order block. So what we could just see is that price is going to sell down through this SR, and then when we get into this area, that's when we'll see that bullish reversal coming in, and that's when we'll see price break to new highs on the weekly. So for me on EG this week, the main things that I'm interested in is price coming into the SR, and then we can look to buy from there following the 1 hour or the 4 hour. Failing that, I'll expect price to buy out of this area following either the 1 hour or the 4 hour. Now, also what we've got, so obviously before we've just been in this huge downtrend. So this whole idea of a bullish change of structure, it is just based on this break of structure here, which has basically signaled that we're going to go bullish now. So realistically, it's definitely not certain that we're going to go bullish, and what could happen is that we do just continue bearish. So for that reason, and also because we've got still 50 pips down to the SR and 150 pips down to the IMP bullish OB, I am also open to selling opportunities following the current 4 hour structure. So looking at the 4 hour from last week, we have this break of structure first, and then secondly we have this break of structure. What that's left behind is 2 clear order blocks, and those order blocks are absolutely fine to sell out of, provided that we don't touch into this area first. So for me, what I'm looking for going into the start of the week, I'll look for price to retrace into here. I'll be happy to sell out of there, and then when we do get down here, if we start to see that bullish transition on the minute time frames, then I will take profit. If we end up coming straight back up here and we break this level, then I will still expect sells to come into the market, and I will expect sells to come from this 4-hour impulsive, and then we can target at least the daily SR. And then, like I say, once we do get into this daily SR, I'll be looking to follow most likely the 1-hour or the 4-hour structure to then buy. And if that doesn't work out, if we do break this low, I will still be anticipating buys coming away from the daily imp down here, which is also the weekly OB. So it's pretty interesting on EG this week. I think we've got a few nice opportunities. So, you know, we've got these sells here, which at least will take us hopefully down to the SR, but if not, it'll take us down to the imp. Of course, you know, we don't know for a fact that this is going to hold. There's obviously a lot of liquidity under here, so I do think that it's a good idea to stay open-minded and look for the sell opportunities, because if they do continue, we could just see that longer-term trend continuation. So the first opportunities next week are going to be these sell opportunities, and then after that we can look for buys when we get into this area. Like I say, if we see the 1-hour bullish transition, then absolutely we can look for buys out of there, and the same is true down here. So guys, that is EG for this week, and that's my plan with EG. Look for the short term sells. When we get into these places, I will be expecting some type of transition into bullishness, so if we do see that, then I'll be happy to take buys out of either of these two areas. Alright guys, and finally today, the pound yen. So pound yen, as of the last few weeks, I was talking about we had a break structure 1 and break structure 2. What that did left behind this order block here, which was a potential area to continue bullish from. Now, obviously what we can see, we've had this little reaction here, but it's failed to continue, it's failed to follow through, and then we've seen the bearishness come back into the market and cause a daily break structure. So at this point, we're still in an overall uptrend because we've got these two break structure here. And that uptrend was started by this order block down here, the daily impulsive order block. So for me, because we've now broken this low, what I am anticipating is that we are going to continue for sells now, at least down to the daily impulsive order block. So we've got a decent move coming for sells, I'm anticipating. We've got basically 500 pips just from where we are now, down to the daily imp. And at that point, when we do get down there, we can just look to buy from a daily imp following either 1-hour or 4-hour trend transition. Now, that said, however, just because of the distance down there, I am just mainly interested at this point in this sell thesis for this week, and I'm interested in selling away from these areas to take us down there. So let's have a look now at the lower time frames. Alright, so sorry guys, let's go back to the daily for 1 sec. So the whole daily structure, the whole daily move which broke this structure, originated from this wick up here. So for me, the most extreme area that we could see the sells come to the market from is going to be this rectangle I've marked here, which is the daily bearish order block, which caused the last daily break structure. So for me, on the daily, if we do get up into this daily intent order block which I've marked, I'll be absolutely happy to look for sells following the 1 hour. Now, the thing is though, that there's not really much imbalance in these areas. All the imbalance is pretty much being filled. And looking at the 4 hour, what we can see is basically price has had this big impulsive move here. So basically this wick is the origin of this whole move, which broke structure. So for that reason, this wick is a bearish order block. So for me, what I'm really anticipating next week is price is going to retrace up into this wick here, which is our 4 hour successful retrace. And then when we do get into this wick, we can just look for sells out of there using a confirmation entry. And then that will hopefully take us down into the daily imp for a very nice move, potentially 700 pips down to the daily imp away from this wick here. So for me, that's the most ideal opportunity next week on pound yen. We're selling out of this 4 hour wick, and we can expect price to come down into this impulsive OB on the daily. Like I say though, the whole sell thesis is not invalid until this high is broken. So if this wick doesn't hold, then I will still be expecting bearishness come into the market, but I will just anticipate that it instead will be coming out of here, possibly out of this wick here, or right out of the extreme. So that's GJ really for the sells. I will look to sell from the 4-hour SR for the 4-hour structure continuation. Failing that, I'll look to sell from the daily for the daily structure continuation. And then I will be targeting this area because at this area I do anticipate that buyers are going to start coming into the market. So what we've got is short-term sells and to eventually take us down here, and then we can look for that buy, which will hopefully take us into new highs, all-time highs on the pound yen. So the last thing I will mention, obviously, like I say, I do expect price to go for sells following this whole bearish structure which has been created. But right now we are right at the low, and on the 1 hour we've got some very clean structure. So I will just show you guys this one. So we've got break structure 1 on the 1 hour, break structure 2 on the 1 hour. So for me, what we've got now is a clear shorter term bullish order block, and we can just continue buys out of there to take us up into this 4-hour SR. So for me, Monday, this is pretty much going to be Monday. If it does happen, it's an opportunity for Monday really. We can look to buy out of this area here, and then that should take us 300 pips up to there. So I mean, if you guys can get a small stop loss out of here, then it could be a very nice trade, because we do have a lot of distance to cover just to get us back up into the 4-hour SR. So guys, that's my pound yen analysis. We've got our first opportunity is going to be this counter trend buy following that 1 hour market structure transition into buys. Second opportunity we're going to see coming in hopefully is going to be the 4-hour SR. So when we do hit that, I'll expect a sell off. Now failing that, we're going to have another sell opportunity when we get up into this area here. And in terms of refinement, I'd expect that to come from there. So if this doesn't hold, then I will expect price will come up to here, and then I do expect that it will sell off from there. So that's really 3 opportunities for next week on pound yen. And of course, when we do start the sell move overall, I will be expecting price to come down here, and then we can look to buy out of this area down here on the daily. However, that is very unlikely to happen this week, just based on the distances that would need to be covered. So what I'm really looking at this week is just going to be the entry into buys, counter trend to take us back up, and then we can look for that sell entry from either here or here to then target that area down there. Alright guys, so I hope I've explained things clearly today. I've tried to explain them as clear as I could, but if you guys have any doubts about what I'm thinking, or you don't understand anything, then do just leave a comment in the description. I'll be more than happy to answer your guys' questions. And if you want a written version, then do just click the link in the description so that you can see the written version of the forecast. Also guys, if you enjoy this content, please do subscribe to the channel, because I'm super grateful for it, and I'm almost at 400 subscribers now. So I would love it if you guys subscribed if you've watched this far into the video. So guys, thank you very much for watching. I hope you guys all have a safe trading week. Stick to your trading plans, stick to your risk management, and keep a good psychology. Thank you for watching guys.